Hopefully, everyone can find a place to sit down this morning. We'll be spending a couple of days together, and it's wonderful to see all of you here. I'm sure many of you have traveled from both nearby and far away. How many of you are from San Diego? Stand up, San Diego. Wherever you are, let's see you. Hey, San Diego, fantastic. Nice to see you. Do we have anyone here from Northern California? Up north? Okay, we do the leadership seminar up north, but sometimes they come down here. Let's see, who's next? Phoenix? Santa Barbara? Ventura, Oxnard? Santa Barbara? Where are you? Stand up right down here. Nice to have you. Okay, who's next? Phoenix? 2 from Phoenix, all right. How about Los Angeles? Good old Los Angeles. Tony, where's your group? Okay, what's next? Orange County? Anybody here from some exotic place? Artesia? Okay, it's a pleasure to have everybody here, and we want to welcome you to the leadership seminar. Let me give you a list of the subjects we'll cover.
Who could reveal the secret of God but God himself? Who could reveal your secret thoughts other than yourself? I could take you into my confidence regarding certain things in my life, but no one can ever know my thoughts but myself. So if anyone reveals Christ as the Lord, it must be God himself. He who dips with me into the dish. Who could dip with me but myself? The word of God is planted in every being, and all the blows of life stir and agitate the word, causing it to take root and begin to unfold.
About 4 or 5 years ago, some businesses and corporations in California invited us to talk about our experiences in doing business around the world, human behavior, setting goals, game plans, and communication. We decided to do it, and it started to grow. We finally decided to make it a product of our company. For the last 4 years, we've been doing this 2-day leadership seminar, and I enjoy it. It's a chance to get acquainted with people on a more personal basis. In the evening seminar, it's hard to get acquainted with 1,000 people. But in these 2 days, we'll have a chance to chat, and I'll make sure to meet you before the session is over. There are a couple of things I hope you'll find here in these 2 days. One is sincerity. We sincerely want to give you valuable information that might help you. It's sometimes difficult to judge sincerity at first glance, especially in a big seminar. But over these 2 days, you'll have a chance to look us over more closely. I hope that's one thing you find here, sincerity. I'd also like these 2 days to be the start of some new answers for you. 2 things we all need to do well are ideas and inspiration. Ideas are not that difficult to come by. A new idea can be as close as the next book you open, the next class you attend, or the next person you meet. Ideas can change your life. Hopefully, by the end of these 2 days, we'll have a long list of ideas for you to take home, ponder, and try out. Inspiration, however, is the tricky part. Some people seem to stay totally turned on, excited about life, and have no problem getting up and generating zest for the day. They're excited about living, working, and accomplishing.
Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. Then the evangelist speaks of the one who enters, saying, The betrayer has given them a sign that the one he shall kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him out safely. Then comes the finale, as the story of the betrayer is repeated, beginning with the words, My hour has come. This true story unfolds in man, for every man has the word buried in him. One day that word will burst the seed and expand into the tree of life. Judas was not the one that departed to tell what he had heard.
This weekend might be the beginning of some new zest and energy for your dreams. Here's what else I hope we can create this weekend. Some emotional turbulence. It's good to stir our mental pot every once in a while, get ideas flowing, ask questions, and do some wondering. This seminar was designed for this purpose, to give you guidelines for translating response into results. It's one thing to get excited and say, I want to do well, but the big question is, how do you do it? Hopefully these 2 days will generate some thinking on how to make plans for translating excitement into results. As we embark on this seminar, let's consider why you're here. Everyone has different reasons for attending. Some may just want to get away for a couple of days, and that's okay. Others might be at the beginning of a new venture and need fine-tuning. Some may be drifting along, dealing with the tasks of maintaining their program. Maybe it's wintertime for some of you, a time of transition or searching for the next step. Whether it's a beginning, a transition, or a celebration, we want to treat this weekend seriously and give you the best answers we can. Wherever we have found you, we want to do good these 2 days. Here's how to get the most out of this seminar. First, realize where you already are. Better things come when we are thankful for what we have. Compared to the rest of the world, we're doing fairly well. At a previous seminar, I saw Ferraris, Continentals, Eldorados, Corvettes, and even a Rolls-Royce in the parking lot. I remarked that the rest of the world would find it strange that we are trying to figure out how to do better. But we have the chance to do well and to be an influence, to develop leadership for those we come in contact with. Next, be thankful for what you already have. As someone said, I complained about not having any shoes until I met someone who had no feet. Gratitude is essential. Also, be eager to learn no matter how much you already know or how successful you are. There's always a chance to learn something new or appreciate another's point of view. Gather up all we share these 2 days and argue with it later. Debate is healthy, but we don't have time for extensive discussions this weekend. Just take in the information, digest it, think about it, and decide what you can use. Be a student, not a follower. Lastly, be a good listener. It's not always easy to listen with all the voices and distractions in our minds. Do your best to set aside the burdens of the day and focus. Become a good listener, and we'll see if we can't load up your notebooks with plenty to ponder by the time we finish. Now let's delve into our first subject, communication. If there's one skill to develop as well as any other, this is probably one of the most important. Communication. By the way, I've got a theme for this seminar. For these 2 days, the evening seminar theme was, The Major Key to Your Better Future is You. I've tweaked it a bit to read, The Magic Key to Your Better Future is You. There's magic in a smile, a handshake, human contact, and believing. In fact, The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol is a good book. If you haven't got it, add it to your library. Over these 2 days, we'll talk more and hopefully discover some more of the magic of human contact, human ability, and human potential. Communication is one of those major skills to develop. See if you can't find the magic within you that can reach other people and affect them with words. It's a major challenge to get your ideas across, to make people understand what you're trying to say, to get them to understand how you feel. At first, words are a bit clumsy when it comes to expressing an emotion, an idea, or a feeling. But if you'll practice it, and especially if you know the components of good communication, it'll really start to help. I heard a story about a preacher in the backcountry down in the southern part of the United States. He was taking over a little country church for the first time. During his first sermon, he said, Congregation, first of all, this church has got to crawl. In order for this church to crawl, everybody's got to show up and do their Christian duty. If everybody shows up and does their Christian duty, this church can begin to crawl. The congregation understood what the preacher said and responded, Let it crawl, preacher, let it crawl. He continued, Next, this church has got to get up and walk. In order for this church to walk, everybody has got to tell their Christian story and try to win someone else. If everybody tells their story and tries to win someone else, this church can begin to walk. The congregation responded, Let it walk, preacher, let it walk. He went on, Next, this church has got to run. In order for this church to run, everybody has got to divide up, serve on the committees, and do the work of the church. If everybody divides up, serves on the committees, and does the work of the church, this church can begin to run. The congregation responded, Let it run, preacher, let it run. Finally, he said, This church has got to fly. In order for this church to fly, everybody has got to reach down deep and give some of their cash. If everybody reaches deep and gives a portion of their cash, this church can begin to fly. The congregation, understanding the preacher's request, responded, Let it walk, preacher, let it walk. How do you make it clear? First of all, we communicate for 2 primary reasons. Here they are. We communicate to get along. You can't function even at the barest minimums without some kind of communication. If you want the bread, you have to learn to ask for it, the barest of communication. We communicate to accomplish a specific purpose. Now, communication starts from somewhere. For you, communication starts with you. A good phrase to remember is your world begins with you. This is not to be self-centered, but your world is around you, your own consciousness and awareness. For things to work well, first of all, it's got to work well with you. Part of my training and getting me turned around and headed in the right direction when I first met Mr. Schaff was understanding that the biggest changes I needed to make were personal. I kept hoping the weather would change, the government would change, prices would change, my neighbors would change, people would change, my friends would change, the economy would change, and the country's direction would change. I kept waiting for change all around. But he's the one who taught me that what changes your world is not wishing for change, it's changing. You've got to change. Sure enough, as James Allen said in his book, As a Man Thinketh, humans are rather strange. We curse the effect and nourish the cause. We want it to change, but we don't want to change. Interesting, isn't it? The guy puts sand in his shoes and can hardly walk. You ask, how can you walk with that sand in your shoes? He says, I can hardly walk. You say, well, why do you do that? He says, I don't know. I've been doing it for years. Incredible. The guy puts tacks in his bed and can hardly sleep. They ask, how can you sleep with all those tacks in your bed? The guy says, I can hardly sleep. They ask, well, why would you do that? He says, I don't know. It's been in the family for years. We do things like that. Interesting why we wish for it to change, hoping it will change, but resist change. Once you understand that it all starts with you, you can start making incredible progress. Good communication starts with you. A good phrase to remember is, you cannot speak that which you do not know. First, you've got to have it before you can speak it, before you can share it. So good communication starts with an awareness that, first of all, to get good communication going with anybody, it's got to start with some substance on your part. Now, how to consciously grow and build the substance from which communication comes? That is the key. It's like making deposits. You can't withdraw anything until you put something in. We all need to be consciously aware every day of gathering up the ideas, the inspiration, the feelings that we're going to use for future communication. Future meaning maybe in the next 5 minutes, but maybe in the next 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. Be consciously aware. It's not that difficult for the years to pass without being conscious of what's happening in terms of demands or opportunities and just drift along, not being much further ahead a year from now than you are right now, simply because you just let the days pass. But if you have a conscious awareness of what it takes to effectively affect other people, to get your ideas across, to make decisions, to express your feelings and opinions, once you do that deliberately, consciously, daily, and consistently, that's what starts your own personal development. Let me give you 4 key words to be aware of that will help you in putting together a conscious awareness program of developing a source of communication, making these deposits. See, when you talk, you want a verbal check that will cash. When you speak, you want to speak from something that's there, an awareness that's there, a feeling that's there. To create this foundation or this reservoir or this deposit or this account from which you can talk, let me give you 4 words that will help you to do that. Here's the first one. Develop an interest. The first word is interest. Develop an interest in 2 primary things, life and people. If you're interested in life right away, daily, weekly, monthly, you're going to be gathering up information, impressions, and awareness more so than someone who is not that interested. Most people want to make it, but they don't have that interest, that keen interest in what's going on around them. So the 2 things to be interested in are life and people. Make a study of those. Make sure you're entering something in your journal constantly about life and about people, both in business life and social life. What's happening around you is called gathering, so that you can use it for future conversations. Now, you do this deliberately by using these 4 words and thinking about them. What I like to always do is develop a mental tick list, things to remember as you proceed through the day. At first, when you develop a little mental tick list of things to remember, sometimes it's a little awkward. It's like learning to play the piano. My teacher said, here are the right-hand scales. So I got those, no problem. Then my teacher said, now we're going to run the left-hand scales. And I got those, no problem. Then I remember the day she said, we're going to play both hands together. I thought, now that'll be tricky. How could you do them both together? I remember looking at one hand, looking at the other, but finally I got to where I could play both hands together. Then I remember the day she said, now we're going to read the music and play both hands. I thought, wow, how would you do that? I was looking at the music and looking at my hands, but finally I got that going. Then I remember the day she said, now we're going to watch the audience read the music and play both hands. Tal vez te haya pillado en esta serie en la bifurcación del camino, y algunas de las decisiones que tomes en el futuro inmediato tendrán mucho que ver con tus próximos 5 o 10 años. Y he estado en algunos de esos, llamados bifurcaciones en el camino. Quiero decir, hacia dónde vas, que eliges ahora como tu próximo camino de oportunidades, y tal vez estos sean tiempos difíciles para ti. El invierno puede ser una fuente de pruebas cuando hay mucha presión y presión. Tienes que ponerte, tienes que actuar. Las disciplinas son el proceso milagroso Y aquí le mostramos cómo lograr que el milagro de su futuro avance en lo que respecta a las disciplinas. Haga lo que pueda. Podrías volver a casa y establecer un ritmo completamente nuevo, y a eso lo llamamos limpiar la negligencia. Debería dar la vuelta a la manzana. Podría caminar alrededor de la cuadra. Para tu buena salud, no camines alrededor de la cuadra. Así estarás en el camino equivocado. Tiene que leer. Podría leer. Why do people act like they act? Why do they do what they do? Also, be interested in and fascinated with your own life. Why do I act like I act? Why do I always do this? Why do I feel this way? That kind of fascination will help you gather information for good communication. The third word is sensitivity. Develop a sensitivity to life and people. Let what's happening during the day touch you. Let it affect you. Develop a sensitivity to both tragedy and success, to both the highs and the lows of life. Develop a sensitivity to people's feelings, the complexity of life and the simplicity of life. Understand how people are different yet so much the same. Develop a sensitivity to people's beliefs and the way they look at things. Here's a good phrase. Let life touch you. Don't let it kill you, but let it touch you. Be sensitive. When Judy and I were married, I'll never forget. We got back from Europe one time and we were staying at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. It was about Christmas time, around the 20th of December. We decided to rent a car and drive out to Long Island. Judy had never been to Long Island. She was raised in the Midwest farm country. On the way out to Long Island, Judy had never been to Harlem. So we left the hotel, and not very far from the Waldorf Astoria is Harlem. I will never forget the look on Judy's face as we drove through Harlem. It was incredible. It was the 20th of December, but in Harlem, there was not one sign of Christmas. There was not one light, not one Christmas tree, not one wreath on any door, not one strand of tinsel. No sign of Christmas in Harlem on the 20th of December. Yet, a few blocks away on Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue in New York at Rockefeller Center, there's the big blazing Christmas tree. The ice skaters are skating, the chestnuts are roasting, the shops are full of clothes, the shoppers are shopping, and there's this feeling of wealth and affluence. But a few blocks away, there's Harlem, incredible. Judy talked about that experience for a long time after that, the impact it made on her, the incredible contrast in people's lives, from the wealthy to the poor, from the advantaged to the disadvantaged. It really affected her. You want to be affected by life. Let it touch you. Let it reach you. When I lived in Northern California 2 or 3 times a year, I would go to San Francisco to the Tenderloin District, what's known as the bottom of the world. I'd just go spend a day and see what it's like on the other side of life, walk the streets where the lonely walk and talk to them, find out their stories, go eat where they eat, visit with them for a while. It's an incredible experience. I was raised fairly well. I've never had any tragedy in my life, so I really don't know what it's like. But it's good to have a view and a look. You don't have to go live in poverty, but you've got to be aware of it. You've got to know about it. You've got to be sensitive to it. I got to know Frank. Frank runs a bar in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. What an incredible place. You wouldn't believe it. Frank sees more tragedy in a week than most people see in a lifetime. Incredible. I was visiting with him one day. He said, "Jim, see that lady sitting over there at the bar?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's Cookie. How old do you think she is?" I said, "I don't know. She looks about 45. He said, "She's 25. I said, "Wow." Cookie used to be a go-go dancer. She developed some kind of bone disease and had all these operations. Now she's got bolts and pins trying to hold her together, and she can hardly walk. Frank said Cookie comes in 3 or 4 times a week and sits right there. She also has a little boy, 5 years old, who's dying of leukemia. Cookie comes here, drinks until she can't drink anymore, and usually Frank has to call a cab to take her home. The story really got to me. I used to go by every once in a while and leave some money in an envelope with her name on it for her to pick up. The story got me. That's Frank, Cookie, and the Tenderloin. The other side of life where the difficulties are. We've all got to be sensitive to that. We've got to let it affect us. As you let all of life affect you, it affects your conversation. It affects your communication. People will have this incredible sense that there's a great deal about you, your sensitivity, your interest, your fascination with life, that makes life uniquely worthwhile for you. It will show up in your conversation, your feelings, and your ability to reach people. Sensitivity. Don't be afraid of it. Use it. Develop it. The fourth word is knowledge. Develop a working knowledge of life and people. A working knowledge means a systematic way of gathering up all the information that comes your way and trying to put it into some workable form. That's why we suggest a journal. You've just got to have a daily journal to record the ideas, impressions, feelings, and things that come your way, so you'll have this working knowledge, this depth of awareness. If you work on these 4 words and be consciously aware that you're working on knowledge, sensitivity, fascination, and interest about life and people in a deliberate, daily, and consistent way, then when you get ready to talk, there'll be all this substance waiting to back up whatever you have to say. Here's a good phrase. Let what you say be the tip of the iceberg of all you know, feel, and are aware of. Let what you say be only a small portion of all you know and feel. I'm sure we've all had experiences talking with people who said far more than they knew very quickly. Now let me give you 4 steps to good communication. Here are some of the components of communicating well that I think are important to keep in mind. 1. Have something good to say. The foundation of good communication is having something valuable to share. This is why it's essential to develop a reservoir of knowledge, experiences, and stories. Consciously gather information, impressions, and insights daily. Be alert to the stories and ideas that can be used in future conversations. Good communication requires conscious preparation. For every hour of public presentation, many days of preparation are needed. The same is true for personal conversations. Treat every conversation as important. Casual conversations can lead to missed opportunities and misunderstandings. Ensure your conversations are purposeful, even if they are lighthearted. 2. Treat communication seriously. Effective communication should never be treated casually. While not every conversation has to be serious, each one is significant. Communicating with others is important for exchanging ideas and expressing feelings. Casualness in communication can lead to misunderstandings and missed connections. Make a conscious effort to be mindful and intentional in your conversations. This will help you improve over time and become a more effective communicator.
Then he gathers himself together, and he's only one being, and that one being is the Lord God Jehovah, who is Jesus Christ. And you are he. It doesn't make sense. Don't expect it to make sense on this level, but I tell you it is true. For I know for a long while now, night after night, you fall abed and you move beyond the world of dream into a world of spirit waking. From there you shoot your fiery arrows, and they never miss. So someone will bring me a message. I saw circles after circles after circles, and a little tiny circle in the middle, and then
4. Utilize resources. Your library, journals, and notes are invaluable tools for good communication. Keep a personal development library and regularly take notes on ideas, stories, and feelings. Capture these insights in a systematic way so you can easily refer back to them. This deliberate and conscious effort will ensure you always have something good to say. It also allows you to draw on a wealth of knowledge and experiences, enriching your conversations and making them more meaningful. By following these 4 steps, having something good to say, treating communication seriously, conducting research and preparation, and utilizing resources, you can become a more effective and engaging communicator. Here's the 2nd step. Say it well. Part of communication is saying it well, and there are some key points on having a good conversation that gets your point across and gets the job done. Saying it well is a matter of repetition. Conscious repetition. Some people say it over and over and over, but don't get any better at it. However, conscious repetition will help you say it better. My first seminars were not that good, I'll admit that. But guess what? I did it again with the thought in mind of getting better. I practiced it some more, I did it some more, I went over it again. And sure enough, if you do it over and over and over consciously, with the thought of getting better, anybody can improve. People often wonder why I can do an evening seminar for 3.5 hours without using any notes. It's very simple. Anybody could do it. Why am I able to do it? I've done it a few thousand times. If you do something a few thousand times consciously, you will get better and better. So whatever you're doing now in the way of communication, ask yourself, how long do I want it to take to get good at it? If you want to get good right away, you have to do it over and over. Repetition helps you get better. Okay, here's the 3rd step to good communication, and this is so important. Here are some other points on saying it well. Say it with sincerity. There is no substitute for sincerity. Almost everyone wants to feel that you are being sincere, not playing games. They want to know your true feelings, awareness, and what's going on in your life, heart, soul, and mind. Sincerity is essential. Say it accurately. You don't want a lack of credibility to creep into your communication. Tell the truth. The truth is powerful and doesn't need to be dressed up with fiction. Saying it well means being sincere and accurate. Say it with brevity. Don't linger too long on any one point. The human attention span is short. You can't linger on any one thing for too long. You have to move along. I used to tell long stories, stretching them out so long that people forgot the beginning by the time I got to the end. This made the end not make much sense because they couldn't connect it to the beginning. People get weary. Practice being brief. Shorten your stories and illustrations. Be concise. The best practice for this is with kids, as their attention span is really short and they don't mind telling you. They quickly get bored, so make your stories short. Say it with style. Part of style is your personal style, which involves gestures, facial expressions, and body language. You talk with your eyes and speak with your facial expressions as well as your words. Some people talk more with their hands. Develop your own style, but first, be a student of style. Here's the third step to good communication, and this is so important. Read the effect you're having when you communicate. See, that's just major. Study your audience, whoever your audience may be. If it's one of your children, study what's happening to them while you're talking. Look in their eyes, look at their face, and analyze what's going on between you and whoever you're talking to. Whether it's a business conversation or a social conversation, you've got to be keenly aware of what's happening to whoever you're communicating with. Now, a real challenge is communicating with an audience. We had about 1,200 people the other night in Orange County, right? And I've got to make sure that everybody, from down here in the front to way in the back, gathers up 1,000 people's attention for the 3.5 hour period. Now, that's a real challenge. I didn't used to be that good at it. In fact, when I first started lecturing, I was hardly aware of my audience. I was so absorbed in my notes and my material that they could have all got up and left, and I would have never known it. I wouldn't have missed them. I'd have just kept right on talking because I was so absorbed in the material and trying to say it right and do it right. I was not aware of what was going on with my audience, but you've got to read the effect you're having for really effective communication. If it's just an informal communication situation, you can ask, do you read me? Does it make sense? Did I say it well? You get this feedback so you can check how you're doing. If it's informal, you can just ask. Now, you've also got to learn to read some of the subtle things that are going on with whoever you're talking to. Especially humans or especially adults, when we get a little older, we have these tricky ways of looking like we're interested when we're really not. If you want to be a good communicator, you've got to pick up some of those signals. Part of it you can pick up by what we call body language. Some people quickly disclose their feelings about whether or not you're effective or if it's coming across by their body language. It's kind of a new study. I haven't studied much about it, but there's a book called How to Read a Person Like a Book by Nierenberg. You might make a little study on that. Now, don't get too involved in it. Sometimes you can still watch somebody, the way they blink their eyes, and you're looking at their ears and their hair, and now you get too carried away trying to figure out all about them. But you can get some indication. Here's what will serve you well no matter what. Just pure common sense. Just look at somebody and you can kind of tell. If somebody folds their arms and tucks their head down like this, sure enough, you've probably got some more selling to do. You've got to pour it on. Or maybe you should change the subject, or maybe you should quit. Just analyze what's going on. Some things are fairly obvious. If a guy's leaning toward the door like this, that's probably a sign, right? I mean, you say, oh, I got it. I've got a good word for the common sense approach, and it goes like this. Let the obvious be your best teacher. Whatever you do, don't ignore the obvious. Sometimes we say, oh, it couldn't be. Yes, it probably is. But adults especially can be a bit tricky. People smile and nod their head like this, but they've got you shut off and you just don't know. In good communication, you cannot mistake courtesy for interest. Sometimes people will be courteous, but that doesn't mean they're interested. If you mistake their courtesy for their interest, you've lost the hold on good communication. You can also develop a sense of picking up signals. I think women probably have it over men when it comes to this sort of sixth sense of being able to tell what the situation is like. Women have this uncanny gift. Men can develop it, but women already have it. The antenna is out and they pick up signals nobody else can. Men don't have a chance. I think part of it is because until industrialized society came along, women were primarily the protectors. The man was the provider. He was gone out there getting the game or whatever, and the woman was the protector. So women have developed these incredible sensitivities to danger and what's going on. Even the Bible says there are sheep, shepherds, and wolves. It also says some wolves are so clever they've learned to dress up like sheep and talk like sheep. You've got to be clever. The man says, well, looks like a sheep, talks like a sheep. The woman says, ain't no sheep, take my word for it. That's long-developed instinct. Right in the middle of the night, she says, wake up, something isn't right out there. He says, huh? He's gone. She says, no, something's not right. She has this uncanny sense. So that's part of being able to read, picking up what Mr. Shoff called signals. We all throw off signals, vibrations. I don't understand all I know about that, but have you heard the expression, a dog can tell whether or not you're afraid of him? I guess that's true. We throw off a certain kind of signal and they just pick it up. Animals know, you can't fake them out. You can say, I'm not afraid of you. The dog says, who are you kidding? Being able to read is so important. Read your audience. How are you doing? Should you speed up, slow down, change the subject, or be a little stronger? Be more aware of whoever you're talking to. Look more intently at somebody. Try to pick up what's happening between you and the audience, or the person, or the child, or the business partner. You can't believe how it will affect your ability to communicate if you practice this part of picking up what's happening between you and someone else. Here's the fourth step to good communication, and it's about intensity, strong feelings. This is what changes the whole effectiveness of good communication, strong feelings affecting other people with words. Here's a key breakdown to keep in mind, and it goes like this. To affect other people with words, it's 20% what you know and 80% how you feel. Feelings and emotions change the whole outcome of communication. Intensity, words loaded with emotion, have the best effect. Words might be like little straight pins in a shirt. When a guy buys a shirt, it's got all these little pins in it holding it together. So, you start pulling out all these straight pins. What if I took one of those straight pins and threw it at you? You'd feel it. But what if I took that straight pin and wired it to the end of an iron bar about that long, and then I let you have it with that? I could drive that pin right through your heart. Now, the pin is the words, and the iron bar is the emotions, the feelings, the awareness, the uniqueness, all that mysterious stuff that humans are made of. If you learn to put more of you into what you say, more feelings, more awareness, more uniqueness, strength of character, conviction, strong feelings, whatever that is, just be more aware of putting more of you into whatever you say. That's the iron bar that drives what you say to the heart, to the mind, and gets the job done. Words loaded with emotion. Now you must also learn to measure your emotions. You don't want a major outburst for a minor point. Learn to measure it. Some conversations or points may need just a mild blend of emotional feelings, and then another point may need a strong one. But you've got to learn to measure that. Not too much for something minor. You don't want to shoot a cannon at a rabbit. It's effective, but you've got no more rabbit. So learn to measure your emotions. Now here's something important. Where does emotion come from? Where do our feelings come from? Here's where they come from. The emotions that can really help in all of your future conversations. Communication. It's the blend of all your experiences and how they have affected you. The blend of all your experiences and how they have affected you creates your emotional content, your emotional vitality, and worth. So that's part of the getting ready experience on the emotional side. Be aware of your feelings, be aware of your emotions, and as that experience grows, when you get ready to talk, you've got the blend of knowledge and the blend of feelings to put into your conversation, and that's what creates the power. Now, I have one more point, and then we'll take our break. It says, don't forget to say it. Part of communication is simply being aware that more often than not, things need to be said. It's pretty easy to take for granted, especially with the people that are close around us, that they already know how we feel. But you've got to keep expressing how you feel. Here's a good phrase. Actions are no substitute for words. Now, we've used the other phrase that words are no substitute for action, and that's true. Just talk, and not acting. See, that's not good. But here's what else is not good. All of the action and no talk. Make sure that the words accompany the action. Don't fail to say it. Probably one of the greatest difficulties in married life is this breakdown in communication. Not clearing the air often enough. Not keeping this open dialogue going constantly. One thing I found out, take nothing for granted. Say, well, surely they understand. Well, just explain it one more time. Just say it one more time. Don't take a chance whether they know it or not. Bring up the subject again. Make sure it's clear. It's too easy to let it slide and not make it clear, especially with the people around you. Say, how often do you have to tell the people that you love them? How often? Often, often. We all need reassurance. We all need it to be clear and pointed so that we know. There are some things you just don't let go, and there are some actions that will only say certain things. They won't say it all. You can give somebody flowers, but flowers won't do all the talking. Flowers say, you remembered. That's probably what flowers say. But flowers don't say, you do incredible things to me. Nobody affects me like you do. Now see, flowers will talk, but they won't say that. That's the card you've got to put along with the flowers. Let the flowers say whatever they can say, but then don't fail to put the other words with it, because the words are so important. Judy gave me this watch back when I had a birthday in 1972, I believe it was. It was a neat watch, a cool tray watch, a cool... If all goes wrong, I can cash the watch in and live for a while, right? I mean, Judy was always doing things like that. Fabulous watch, neat gift for my birthday. But see, better than the watch was what she wrote on the back. I appreciated the watch, but the words were better than the watch. On the back, she had inscribed, my love for all time. Your Judy, September 1972. See, the watch was neat, but she could have put the words on a Mickey Mouse watch. Pardon me, Walt, I didn't mean to downgrade your mouse. But see, the words were what was really important. So I'm saying let actions speak, but make sure the actions don't substitute for the words. Make sure you say it. And if you make sure you say it, you'll get better at it. You'll get the practice. You'll learn to put more feelings in it, learn to say it well, say it better. And this whole process of communication for you, if you don't treat any of it casually, will start to grow. You will be even startled in the next few weeks, the next few months, at what happens as a result of your future conversations if you become more aware of these things that we have just talked about. Sensitivity, fascination, interest, working knowledge, having something good to say, saying it well, reading the effect you're having, and the intensity of strong feelings.